Hey everyone, so this weekend is Everest Day at Randwick in Sydney, and we also have the Caulfield Cup being run down at Caulfield in Melbourne. So really exciting weekend coming up. It's great racing, not just in Sydney and Melbourne, but also there's really good races around the country. In this video, I'm going to preview every single runner in the Everest. I'm going to share my thoughts on every horse in the race and which ones I think can win, which ones I think can't. Then we'll also go through a quick look at race 9 at Randwick, which is the King Charles. There's a couple of things I want to share with you about betting on that race. And we'll run through the Caulfield Cup. I won't go through every runner in that race because it's a big field, but we'll go through the runners that I think are actually chances in the race. I'll share with you my thoughts on those. Last week, we went through the Guineas down in Caulfield. The race ended up being won by Autumn Boy. That race, we were between Vinrock and Autumn Boy as the top two selections. Personally, I backed Vinrock to win the race, took the 950 as more of the value selection. Damian Lane absolutely nailed the ride on Autumn Boy to get it over the line. He rides Lady Shenandoah in the Everest. We can make it back-to-back weeks for the Waller and Lane combination. But coming up this week, and we'll start with the Everest. So that's race 7 at Randwick. It's over the 1,200 meters. It's worth $20 million total prize money. Last year, this race was won by Bella Nipotina. It was trained by Kira Ma, ridden by Craig Williams. Bella Nipotina sat 3 wide without cover to win the race. Giga Kick, who ran second, was back near enough to last on the fence. That means now Craig Williams has won 2 of the past 3 Everest. He rides Tempted in this one, which is a $17 chance from gate number 1. Karen McAvoy is the other jockey who's won this race on multiple occasions, winning it 3 times. He rides Jetabil, who's the roughest in the race, at about $220. McAvoy won it the first 2 times on Red Zell in the first 2 runnings of the Everest. Then he also won it on Classic Legend a couple of years later. The Everest is run over 1,200 meters, and that means that they start out of the chute, there's a straight run into the home turn, and then they run that final 400 meters down the home straight. So wide draws aren't a huge disadvantage. You can obviously end up getting caught 3 wide, either with cover or without from there. Otherwise, you need to go right back to last or really look to roll forward, but it's not a starting position where wide draws are a huge negative by any means. Looking through the field, as I said, we're going to go through every single runner. We'll start with the number 1 and favorite. That is Ka Ying Rising, the only overseas runner in the race. This horse comes over from Hong Kong. It's trained by David Hayes. Zach Purden comes across for the ride. He obviously rides this horse in majority of its starts. He's ridden at 14 of its 16 race starts. Ka Ying Rising has won 14 of 16 and never missed the top 2. The 2 times that this horse has been defeated were both 0.1 length margins. He's won 13 straight coming into this. Last raced back on the 7th of September. That was over the 1,200 at Sha Tin. This race is really important because it was pouring rain, and obviously there wasn't a great deal of competition in the race. It was close enough to $1 in the market. $1.10 is kind of like the best available you could get. But Ka Ying Rising here sat outside the lead first in tough conditions, carried 61 kilos and ran 107.63. Now the Randwick 1,200 meter track record is 107.32, which in fact was set by Yes 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 back in this race in 2019. But with those things in mind, first up, 1,200 meters in the rain and with 61 kilos and being outside the lead, the fact that Ka Ying Rising was only a 0.3 seconds outside the track record over this distance. If second up, and there's been a bit of a break, it's about 2 and a bit months since that run, and if it's handled the trip over to Australia and runs up to its Hong Kong form, is going to be the winner of this race. Was initially about $1.50 in the lead up, with all the talk around its trial where it's third behind Linebacker and Overpass. That's pushed the market out to $1.70. Closer we get to race time, it's pushing out a little bit more. There was $1.80 around yesterday. Now this morning, $1.85, $1.90 available. It's going to be really interesting if that keeps going, because if Ka Ying Rising gets to 210, 220 at that price, it's a really, really good bet considering the form that it brings into this race. And the only real question is if it handles the trip over to Australia. Being trained by David Hayes, you obviously have The Ben and JD Hayes combination with David Hayes, like they all used to train together as a family in Victoria. David Hayes since gone over to Hong Kong, and Ben and JD taken over that stable now in Victoria. That's not an issue. It's not like your typical overseas runner that where they come from Japan or from over in the UK and things like that, where things are a little bit different in that situation. But the trial for Ka Yung Rising went third, was against Linebacker and Overpass. Overpass lines up in this race, but Overpass is a very, very good trial, so you want to keep that in mind. Linebacker already had a run as well, and they did put a big margin on fourth place and beyond, and there are a few runners who line up in this race also in that trial. So I think there's still decent merit to it. It obviously wasn't like emphatic of a horse that should be $1.50 in this race, but the market's adjusted and we're starting to get more of a valuable price here for Ka Yung Rising, especially from barrier 7. Purdon should be able to park right in behind Marzu and Overpass and get close enough to run of the race, which should absolutely give him his chance to win. Now, the other chances in the race, Now, the other runners in the race, number 2, Briasa, who won the main lead up to this race. The race Briasa comes through, the winner of the last 2 Everests have come through that same race, and Briasa was the winner of it. And it was a really good dominant win, but I want to say, like, we backed Briasa in that race, and it was given an absolutely perfect ride by Tyler Schiller. He had barrier 2, positioned up, 1 out, 1 back, peeled out, and was never really getting beaten as soon as he got that spot in the run. Jimmy Star, who ran second in that race, was back last and had a big run to make, closed off into second. That was Briasa's second up run. First up was over the 1100 at Randwick, where it was run down by Jolie Star, who also lines up into this race. I think the big negative for Briasa here, it goes from barrier 2 out to barrier number 10. So he's going to need to go to another level. Third up, likely gets caught out 3 wide, and potentially is the runner that's 3 wide without cover, as it just has that little bit more early speed than Jimmy Star, who's also drawn out wide, and also Magic Time, who's likely to go back. So I think it's going to be very, very tough here for Briasa. Got the money out of her last start. I don't think she's going to be able to win this race. Jimmy Star, who I mentioned, ran second behind Briasa last start. Dropped out to last from barrier 7 there, which was the widest gate in the race. Made a good run, but draws wide again here in barrier number 11. Now, Ethan Brown has kind of 2 options. He can either drop out to last, like he's been doing on this horse this preparation, or just roll forward and sit 3 wide with a bit of cover. I think that is the preferred option here for Jimmy Star. If he's able to do that, then that gives Jimmy Star a chance to win. If he drops right back to last or is a touch slow away, then that virtually eliminates Jimmy Star's chances. The one thing I do like with Jimmy Star here is it's being trained by Kira Ma, one of his 2 runners in the race, but they followed the exact same path as they did last year with Bella Nipotina to the race. Bella Nipotina placed in both lead-ups. Jimmy Star ran 5th. First up in that Headwall Lady Shenandoah race, and then last start, second behind Briasa, with Marzu back in 3rd. They are at different stages of their career. Bella Nipotina had over 40 starts. Jimmy Star's about half of that right now. If they can sit 3 wide, that part of the track is okay, and the pace is genuine, then I think Jimmy Star is a chance, but it's definitely going to need a really big performance to be able to sit out wide and still be able to beat this field. And it's probably going to need a few of the other runners to not be completely at their best, or need to go to a completely new career peak. Is a good horse over like the 1400 meters. Majority of its good runs have come over that, similar to like War Machine. So they do have that really strong fitness base where they will be able to run out a strong 1200 meters. I'll quickly mention Marzu, who's about $160 chance, but does come out of that lead up with Briasa and Jimmy Star. Held on for 3rd in that race after leading. Ran 11th in the Everest 2 years ago now. Was beaten about 5 lengths and had barrier 11 there. Went back to last, didn't really make a great deal of ground. It gets barrier number 2. Expect Jason Collett to try and lead here up, try and hold out Overpass, who'll slide across from the slightly wider draw out in barrier number 9, but I just don't think it's going to be able to fend them off. I think there's too many other better horses in this race, and Marzu's just a little bit past the absolute best. Jetterbeal is another runner who was also beaten in that same race, finished 4th, just in behind Marzu. Also was beaten by Jolly Star and Briasa first up as well. Does have a decent third up record and ridden by Kara McAvoy, but isn't going well enough to be able to win this race. And from barrier number 8, doesn't really get any map favors to completely take advantage of. Jolly Star is one that we've mentioned that's come through those Briar form lines. Just had the one run so far this preparation, so comes into this race second up. It was a massive win to run down Briasa, who obviously won again following it. And off that, the form through Jolly Star does look really good. Since that run first up over the 1100, has had a trial where it finished about 7 lengths off Overpast and Kalying Rising. Has McDonald on, which is definitely a key factor here. He's won 4 from 6 on Jolly Star, and this horse has only won 2 of 10 other races without James McDonald steering. 1200 meters is ideal, has won 4 from 8 at this distance, has a good map. Like, there's plenty of positives here for Jolly Star. The one thing I want to mention, Jolly Star was the runner I backed in the Everest last year and had all those same things going into that race. Like good barrier, good map, everything lined up perfectly, was going well in the leading, but jumped well from the draw last time and then got checked and got shuffled back to last coming to the turn. Made up a lot of ground along the inside. Late kind of followed somewhat the run of Giga Kick had. So as they came to the turn, Giga Kick was alongside on the inside of Jolly Star, and Giga Kick got first use of that run. Bella Nipotina sat 3 wide without cover in that race. So I just have slight concerns on the quality of last year's Everest overall, but with Jolly Star, is obviously a really class horse. McDonald rides, and Waller does have 3 runners in the race. This is obviously the pick of them. He did ride Lady Shenandoah first up and second up, and goes with Jolly Star here. So I think it definitely is a big chance. The question with Jolly Star is, obviously got shuffled back to last on the turn last year in this race, and was a flashing light run along the inside. If Jolly Star can sit right up in behind the speed and still pull off those closing sectionals, was very good over the 1100s. Is a chance of really going to another level here. Is definitely top 3 chance, that's for sure. And I'd be surprised if Jolly Star isn't in the placings here in this race. I think is one of the 3 main winning chances. Other runners in the race, the other 2 Sydney form runners coming to this race, firstly is Tempted, who is in with the light 51 kilos, the only 3-year-old in the race, 3-year-old filly, so get in with the 51 kilos. 3-year-olds do have a really good record in the Everest, so you can't fully rule it out, particularly with Craig Williams and Barry number 1. He's going to get a super soft run along the inside, save all the ground. Will need luck at a key stage, but if he gets the right run through, can be there in the finish. Comes back from the 1400 in the Golden Rose, back to the 1200 here. Slight concern, potentially being an afterthought here. Really good win first up, over 1200 in the run to the Rose. Beat Baywalk, who then went on to win the Golden Rose. Tempted ran 3rd in that Golden Rose. Was a touch exposed early, but kind of I feel like had every chance in that race. Richardson ran 2nd in the Golden Rose, went down, ran in the Caulfield Guineas, ended up being heavily back. Like Wotan was the one the money came for and went really poorly. So there is a slight question mark on that Golden Rose form. Comes back to the 1200, trained by Kira Ma. There's obviously the positives and, you know, being the only 3-year-old in the race. Can't completely rule it out, but I do think at around the $17 to $20 is the right price point. Only missed the placings once from 8 career starts, but obviously this is going to be the biggest test to date by quite a long way. The only other Sydney runner is Overpass, who comes into this race first up, trialed up alongside King Rising, so that's definitely the big positive. Last start was back in the Doomben 10,000 on the 9th of May. Ended up finishing 9th in that race, being quite well beaten after starting around a $7 to $8 chance in that race. This horse has a great first up record, 9 first up runs for 4 wins, 4 second placings. However, has historically struggled at Randwick. It's had 11 starts here for just the 1 win and 4 second placings. Now, the thing I want to mention here with Overpass, which goes back to Kalying Rising, is that Overpass is a fantastic trialer. This horse has finished top 2 in his last 12 trials overall. So either won or run a close second in 12 straight. So that's also, to me, quite a big tick here for Caulfield Rising. Like, as bad as everyone in the medias wanted to say that the trial was, and like, you've got people out there who just like to create conversation and just, create drama in things that isn't necessarily there. I know, Purden and stuff said Caulfield Rising is going to have to improve, but I think it was just blown a little bit out of proportion. Overpass, very good trialer. Josh Parr always gets the best out of him. For Overpass's chances in the race is a $60 chance. And barrier number 9 means it's going to have to jump really well to get across the field without expending too much energy. So I think just might get a little cooked up early and won't be able to quite finish the race off as well as they need to. Now, the other 4 runners all had their last start down in Melbourne. Starting towards the top, we have War Machine, who's won 4 straight races technically. Won first up at Flemington down the straight over the 1200 meters, and then won its final 3 races last preparation. This, though, is significantly tougher than last start at Flemington, where it beat home Bridal Waltz and Star Patrol, and only gets in 2 kilos lighter. Carried 60 kilos there, and only gets in 1.5 kilos lighter. Carried 60 kilos in that race and has to carry 58.5 here. And in that race at Flemington, had the absolutely perfect gate and given an ideal ride to win the race. Blake Shin tracked Bridal Waltz and Star Patrol into it, came off their back at the 200 and put them away late. Bridal Waltz and Star Patrol ran 2nd and 3rd. Had Blake Shin on there, and I'm somewhat surprised here that Blake Shin didn't take the ride. Virtually, him and Tim Clark switch rides. Blake Shin rode War Machine last start. Tim Clark takes a ride on War Machine. And then in the Caulfield Cup, Tim Clark rode Vauban last start and Blake Shin takes over the ride. But the interesting thing here is obviously Blake Shin has the best win percentage for the Hayes stable across any jockeys that have taken rides for them across the past 12 months. And other jockeys have had more rides for the Hayes stable as well. The Hayes Yard is also the stable that Blake Shin rides for the most. It's not negative, obviously, with Tim Clark taking over. He did previously win on War Machine in the Stradbroke at Eagle Farm back in June. He's drawn in barrier 4, so gets a nice run and is super consistent. I just think, was good first up in an easier race over 1200, but War Machine, in my opinion, is a real 1400 meter horse. That's where you absolutely see the best of it. So he's going to need a very fast run 1200 here in order to be able to win this race. And I don't know if the horses up on speed are going to, completely burn up their chances. Like we've seen previously fairly often in this races, they don't want to go too hard out in front, because if you can get to the front without copping too much pressure and ease up, then you at least give yourself a chance to win. If you really roll along, then you're beaten at the top of the straight and will drop out and be well beaten. So that takes away the chance of it being a really fast run, which I think War Machine needs. Angel Capital is an interesting runner here. Massive win first up over the 1200 at Moonee Valley in a listed race. Beat Compelling Truth by almost 4 lengths. Then started favourite in the Group 1, Sir Rupert Clark at Caulfield, which was over the 1400 metres. Had barrier 12 there for Damien Lane. Was forced to go back. Then had a ton of traffic issues and only got out really late and hit the line well, but Craig Williams nailed the ride on Sepples. He rolled across from the wide draw, got a really good run into it, and was off and gone by the time Angel Capital got into the clear. Was failed since, but did have plenty of excuses in that run when starting $2.50 favourite in the Toorak. Damien Lane off, Ben Mellum goes on board. Damien Lane rides Lady Shenandoah. I don't think Angel Capital loses too much with Ben Mellum going on here. He previously rode this horse when it was with Clinton McDonald before being transferred to Chris Waller. He's won 3 of 5 times on Angel Capital. First up, dominant win over 1200, unlucky over the 14, now back to the 12, third up. We'll have the fitness there. My only concern with Angel Capital is only a Group 3 winner. Last start was its best performance in a Group 2 or better. Trailed up 9 lengths off, overpassing Caulfield Rising between runs. From gate number 3, expect Ben Mellum to sit midfield with cover. If everything falls into place, he's got a nice soft run, gets the right gaps at the right time, and Angel Capital peaks here third up. Can obviously win, has a very small chance of winning, but I think it's going to just need everything to fall into place in order for it to win. Magic Time also comes up from Victoria, had both runs over the 1200 meters so far this preparation. Firstly at Caulfield and beating Mr. Mbini, and then third behind Charmstone after drawing the fence at Moonee Valley in the Manikato. Jumped okay, maybe a touch slow, was back on the fence. Ended up like not being able to kind of go with him early, lost a little bit of ground. Then Michael D got an ideal ride through. He was able to just slice through the field. Ended up finishing third, just ahead of Lady Shenandoah. So you have that form there through Lady Shenandoah for this race as well. But I think Magic Time had every possible there. Draws the widest barrier here, so he's going to have to go back to last from there for Michael D. And I just can't see her rounding up this field with that kind of run. Does get the blinkers going on for the first time, so potentially do they want to roll forward from out there? I'm not sure. The fact that they didn't last start at the Valley, if the Graham Begg stable is going pretty well at the moment, tactics are going to be interesting, but if they go back, I don't think it can win. And then finally, the last runner we haven't mentioned yet is the 10 Lady Shenandoah. Should have won first up in Sydney over the 1,000 when second at Randwick behind Headwall. Was badly held up, only got clear very late, and it was too late, and flashed there, hitting the line really strongly, just missing picking up Headwall. Gets back to Randwick after going down to the Valley and running in that Manikato, which I mentioned. Finished fourth in that race, was 3 wide most of the way from barrier number 10. Did have 3 wide with cover, had the back of Rothfire. I don't think it handled the corner very well either at the Valley, but getting back to Randwick is the key for this horse. It's had 4 runs here, 3 wins, and that second placing first up over the 1,000 meters. Interesting, like they started this prep over the 1,000, then they went to the 1,200s, had the 1,200 meter run now, was wide, sets up well, does lose Jason McDonald. Damien Lane takes over, rides this horse for the first time. I think that suits. I don't really have any issue with that at all. We'll get an ideal run from barrier number 6 and should definitely get its chance. Here's the other runner that I can see finishing the top 3 here. So for me, the 4 most likely winners of this race, Carling Rising, if it brings its best, it's going to win. And just hopefully we can get 220, 230. That'd be ideal. Next is Jolly Star, who's second in the market. Part of this is just the fact that I backed Jolly Star last year. I think it's going to be in the finish more than likely, particularly with all the setup that it has again this time around. Lady Shenandoah, you can forgive the run last start at Moonee Valley and suited at the track and distance. All no issue. Lady Shenandoah is also a horse that has good wins over the 14 and 1500 meter trips. So I don't think like 1200 is an issue at all. And did have that 200 meter jump last start. It's going to definitely be better for it. The other runner who I think is a chance, Jimmy Star, if they sit 3 wide with cover, it's another runner that can run out a strong 1200 meters, but is going to need a good ride by Ethan Brown. I do recommend, like, if you are looking at outsiders in this race, definitely take the tote for the World Pool, because expect that there's going to be a lot of money for Carling Rising late on that World Pool with like Hong Kong bettors and everything. That's going to really shorten the price. So if you want to back Carling Rising, take the fixed odds and just monitor the market to see if it keeps pushing out. As soon as they look to come back in, that's when you want to back it. And if anything outside of Carling Rising, I'd definitely be looking at the tote for it. Now, race number 9, this is the King Charles over the 1600 meters. I'm not going to go too in depth here because I do kind of think there's 4 in the race that are kind of a class above the rest. It's over the 1600, so there is the whole back straight to work with from these gates. Starting at the top, you have Mr. Bryceheart, who's a $5 chance. Won the Maccabi Diva last start over this distance and did it basically in cruise control. No one wanted to lead. Williams took the front, put the handbrake on, and went sectionals where nothing behind had any chance of winning from there. Aliana, Viastistina, and Antino all finished, just been behind, all finished in behind Mr. Brightside there. None of them won the Turnbull. They all kind of ran okay behind Sir Delius. Loves the mile, but it's also going to have to do it a little bit differently this time, which has done plenty of times before. It has beaten Private Jenny on 5 occasions, but isn't going to be able to lead like it did last start. So there's going to be different tactics. Don't expect to see a repeat of last start, that's for sure. Barrier 12 for Craig Williams. He's going to roll forward from out there, has the whole back straight to find a spot to slot in. We've seen plenty of times from Mr. Brightside. Rolls forward, Williams was able to slot in, has that tactical speed. So I think can be within range here of Pride of Jenny, who's going to be rolling along out in front. Declan Bates linked back up with this horse last start at Moonee Valley and was able to lead all the way, beat home Treasure the Moment, who on the night, like, that looked like a massive win, beating Treasure the Moment. And I think Pride of Jenny was also helped by the track as well. But Treasure the Moment couldn't beat Globe last week, so that's a little bit of concern. I just don't think Pride of Jenny here is as well suited around Randwick. Does have a really big win at the track in the Queen Elizabeth a couple of years ago over the 2,000 meters, but don't think Randwick is the ideal track for it. With them both at $5, I'd lean towards Mr. Brightside. Previously, if you go back to this race or this sequence of races last year, won the fee in at the Valley over the 1600, beat Mr. Brightside there, leading all the way again, and then went up to Randwick and was beaten by Cheolwolf, who lines up in this race. I just don't think Cheolwolf is going as well. So do think Pride of Jenny is a little bit vulnerable. As I said, with them both at $5, lean towards Mr. Brightside being the better option. Fangirl is currently favored about the $4 mark in this race. Ran fourth behind Treasure the Moment and Mr. Brightside first up. Came up to Sydney second up and picked up Lindemann late. We backed Fangirl there. Lindemann went in and bolted in last Saturday for us, so the form looks really good there through Fangirl. Loves Randwick. 9 wins of its 12 career wins have come at this track. And there's lots of good form lines here for Fangirl through Via Sistina, Lindemann, Mr. Brightside as well. The concern is obviously Pride of Jenny being in the race. Yet to beat home Pride of Jenny in any time they've met so far. And from barrier 11, tactics are going to be tough here for James McDonald. He's going to need to get this ride absolutely right. And that's my main concern here for Fangirl. So it's one that I wouldn't back in this race. Reason for that, like, if it wins at $4, it's going to run like an absolute career best performance. And it's had 35 starts already. Whether it can do that now is a big ask. And I think it's going to have to in order to be able to win this race. Barrier 11, Waller tactics usually are to just go back, you can restrain early, drop back to last, and then make one run. If Pride of Jenny runs them along at an average or better tempo, which we have to expect, I don't think Fangirl's going to be able to sustain a long enough sprint in order to get there. I think the only way Fangirl wins this race, if they drop back, which is what we're going to expect, is if Jason McDonald is able to find the right back to follow, which from back in the field is a bit of a question mark who it's going to be, or he's going to have to be able to weave a passage through the field and save a lot of ground, just hold Fangirl up in behind them, keep taking ground off the horses in front without asking for too much of an effort, and then get clear with about 150 to 200 to go, and then use Fangirl's sprint. So everything's going to have to be perfect. McDonald's ride's going to have to be spot on, which definitely is possible, but I think it's just too much of an ask here, particularly at this price range. The other chance in the race, they're kind of near somewhat the top of the market. You have Pericles at $12. We'll give a small chance here for the Baker Yard. Josh Parr riding. Ran third behind Autumn Glow over this track and distance last start. And also, but I think is a little bit poorly weighted going up to the 59 kilos. I think that's a tough ask, but is coming into this race third up, so suited from that perspective, but definitely going to need to improve again, that's for sure. And I think the most interesting runner of the race is the number 4 Lake Forest. This horse off 56-day freshen up after last start racing over in York when running a close second over the 1410 meters. This will be this horse's second attempt at 1600 meters. Ran 5th earlier this prep at Royal Ascot. Not a great run. I'm going back and watching that replay. In behind horses. Was, being pushed along, not really taking ground off them. The 1600 at Ascot, though, is a straight 1600 meters, which obviously isn't the case here. This horse, last preparation, came over to Australia and won the Golden Eagle, which is a $10 million race over 1,500 meters at Rose Hill. If it brings a performance like that with the 59 kilos here, it's definitely a big chance, that's for sure, up to the mile. And also you get Zach Purden on this time around, and gate number 2 gets its chance to run out the 1,600. If you can have this horse box seating or a 3 back the fence and can slide through, Pride of Jenny be out in front. If you can slide through and save some ground, then I can definitely see this horse being in the finish. Is the one. alongside Mr. Brightside, who I think are the two most likely winners of this race. I'm happy to be against Wolf at the $10. It's had its chances to win, hasn't really brought it so far this preparation. So yeah, I think Mr. Brightside and Lake Forest are your two most likely winners of the King Charles. Now onto the Caulfield Cup. That's race 9 at Caulfield over the 2,400 meters. This starting position, they start right at the top of the home straight at Caulfield, so a good 400 meter run before they get to the bend. With 18 horses in the field, they kind of all get their chance to find their position over that kind of distance. Quickly looking through, the last 3 winners of this race have all been between $8.50 and $18. Last year was won by Duke de Sessa, ridden by Harry Coffey at $17. He rides Zardozi, who gets the blinkers first time in the race tomorrow. Duke de Sessa ran 4th in the Turnbull in the lead up, dropped 3 kilos off of that, and then beat home Buckaroo, who would previously beat Duke de Sessa in the Turnbull in the lead up. So Buckaroo ran 2nd in last year's Caulfield Cup, and there was a big margin back to 3rd. The 2023 race was won by Without a Fight, who then went on to win the Melbourne Cup, ridden by Mark Zara, $8.50. Ran 6th in the Underwood, beating 2.25 lengths as its lead up run. And then 2022, the winner was Durston, ridden by Michael D at $18. That horse ran 6th in the Group 1 Metropolitan up in Sydney prior, and had previously the 2 runs before that been the Newcastle Cup winner and the Wyong Cup winner leading in. 4 of the past 5 winners of this race have drawn barrier 8 or below. The only exception was Incentivize in 2021. This is a race, like as I mentioned, there's quite a lot of horses I don't think can win, so I'm just going to focus on the horses I think are chances. So we'll start with the favorite, that is number 15, Half Yours. It's currently about a $2.90, $3 favorite, and is definitely the horse to beat here. I don't think you can, argue with that. This has been the target race for Half Yours. Has been in work since March. They've used freshen ups throughout. Hasn't been given a spell or a long time off since then. So has plenty of fitness in the legs. Has had 3 runs this time in. Starting with the 1500 at Rose Hill, where it finished 5th, beating about 3 lengths. Closed off really well. That run is better than a 3-length margin behind Estadio Mestal. Had barrier 16, and it was nothing but a fitness run there for Ash Morgan. Went down to Victoria. Jamie Mellum took her first ride on this horse, and it was an absolute gap job over the 2,000 meters. She had it parked in behind the speed, and just watching the race, all she needed to do was get clear running, coming into the straight at any point, and Half Yours was winning that race and ended up winning it in a canter at a Berkshire Breeze. And then last start, ran in that Turnbull behind Sardilius, Antino Via Sestina. That was over the 2,000 meters. Had barrier 4. Kind of ended up quite a long way back. Was in the back 4 or 5 in the run, and was one of the best closers in the race, running on strongly. A lot of the horses that finished ahead were up on speed, like Sardilius and Antino were in that first 4 in the run. Via Sestina, who finished just ahead of Half Yours, just had that slight better map position than Half Yours, but Half Yours closed off really well, basically hit the line alongside Eliana, and I have no issue with it being beaten about 2.5 lengths behind Sir Delius and Tino Via. Via Sestina is obviously the best 2,000 meter horse that we've seen over the past 12 months, and to finish basically alongside that horse and was only carrying 1 kilo less than Via Sestina there, looks really good. Ready for the 2,400 meters. 4 runs ago, bolted in the Caloundra Cup at the Sunshine Coast over 2,400 meters. Carried 56 last start. Comes down to 52.5. And that performance last start, half a length off Via Sestina, 1 kilo lighter, and carried a kilo more than Aliana and beat it home. Really positive signs for this. The Sir Delius form as well stacks up with Lindemann bolting in Sydney. Barrier 2 for Jamie Mellum is the key here. It means Half Yours is going to get a really soft run, but it also means he's going to need luck at a key stage and be able to find the gap. This horse looks to travel really well, so in the field of this size, it can be difficult to establish runs, particularly from low gates with a lot of traffic. But I think even if a half to 3/4 gap appears, and in this kind of race, I think Jamie Mellum is going to be able to take, because the horse is going to be traveling well enough for her to take the gap. is the most likely winner of the race. I think more than $3, and we get $3.20 to $3.50 is definitely worth backing in this race. I think is the most likely winner, and just needs luck at the key stage. Gets everything in his favor. Will run out the 2400, lightweight. Really good map, and I think she can just settle a touch closer. Like, doesn't need to be as far back over the 2400 as she's previously. Like, in one of the interviews I saw about this horse, she said it can roll forward and the horse will settle if they roll forward. And it's not like there's other horses where if you try and push them along early and it's a horse that likes to be back and then they go forward, then it can over race and waste a lot of energy. So that hasn't been the case so far with Half Yours. That sets up nicely for it, and luck at a key stage should be enough for Half Yours to be winning. So definitely isn't a bad bet at $3 or better. Other runners in the race that I think can win without being a total shock is firstly, number 1, Vauban. Ran 5th behind Royal Supremacy in the Group 1 Metropolitan. Follows a similar like form line with Durston and that coming into this race, who was beaten like a similar margin in the Metropolitan. Shin and Clark switch rides, so gets Blake's Shin on. That's obviously a positive. Barrier 13 is a little bit tricky. Was giving Royal Supremacy 8 kilos in that Metropolitan. It's now only 6.5 this time around, so it gets a little weight swing for a smallish margin. Was only beaten about 1.5 lengths in that race. So it's suited, and I do like the fact that Vauban has had the run over the 2400 meters already this preparation. Next, I'll speak about Royal Supremacy. That is number 16, ridden by Robbie Dolan. He had his first ride on this horse last start. It was a pretty tough wide run to win that Metropolitan. Beat home Soul of Spain. Those two ran the Quinella in the Newcastle Cup prior. And obviously you kind of question is, Newcastle Cup and that kind of thing strong enough for this race. But as we mentioned, Durston has previously followed that path and won it a few years ago. Gets a good run from barrier number 6, but is carrying 2.5 kilos more into this race, which is definitely tougher. Like Soul of Spain runs around in Sydney tomorrow and is only about a $4 chance, and it has the direct form lines there with Royal Supremacy. I think at $9.50, even though it gets a good run, I think is definitely under the odds. Revelare is another runner in the market that I don't think is going to win this race. Doesn't need to win here. It's already in the Melbourne Cup, and if that's the main target, which I think it is, they don't want to cop a weight penalty. Comes back slightly in distance from the 2500 last start, where they definitely weren't trying to win, and I think this is just a fitness run for the Melbourne Cup. So I'm happy to be against Revelare, and it is a horse we've backed many a times, but I won't be backing it in this race. Then you've got the overseas runner, number 4, Maidan. This is a really good overseas horse. Only won 3 races, but has always run around in really good, strong races. He's suited by the conditions, dry ground, and also the 2400 meters. Drawn well in barrier number 5. Hasn't won for over a year, so just kind of been around the mark in the placings, that kind of thing. And a little bit concerning, they have Andre Azzini booked to ride. This is a Hong Kong jockey, only going at 9% across his last 100 rides over there. Has had 3 rides at Caulfield and just 1 placing from those 3 rides. Does have rides earlier in the day, so that'll help, but doesn't really have the local knowledge of the other jockeys for the most part in this race. That's definitely a concern. I know, I just think with Maidan, if like they'd booked Mark Zahra or something like that to ride, then I think it would be a big chance, but still at $10, it's on the drift a little bit, I think is a touch under. Speaking of Zahra, he's on the 3 Middle Earth. Comes through the same form line as Half Yours in that Turnbull, beaten about 2 lengths by Half Yours. Gets to the 2400 meters for the first time in Australia, and overseas most of its form was 2400 to 3000 meters. The concern definitely is the weight disadvantage it gets on Half Yours. So Half Yours beat home Middle Earth last time by 2 lengths and now gets a 4 kilo weight swing on top of that margin. So that's why Half Yours is so well suited. Middle Earth, not from a weights perspective. Can't fully rule it out with Mark Zahra in a Group 1, especially with a good map from barrier number 3. Is one that can win without surprising. It's going to be interesting whether he looks to settle a bit closer or drops back from barrier number 3. So that's going to be, I think if he drops right back to last, it's going to be a little bit too much of an ask. If he can hold a spot forward, then it's definitely in the race. The other runner that comes out of that same race that I want to mention, and the last of those runners, is number 10, Deacon. Had the box seat in the Turnbull, so it's getting a good run up on speed alongside like your Sir Delius, who had the 1 out, 1 back spot in the end. Was a touch held up in the home straight. Did finish alongside Half Yours down towards the inside. Draws better here, and also the 2400 meter suits. Just think with Half Yours getting that weight swing as well onto Deacon as well, who only drops a kilo, and Half Yours getting that big weight drop. I think that's enough for the differential in the price. But the 2400 suits and was definitely strong through the line after being a touch held up. So I think with the Caulfield Cup, Half Yours is your most likely winner if it gets the right runs, and there are a few at around that $15 mark that are the most likely outsiders in order to get up. So that's my look at the Everest, the Caulfield Cup, and a quick look at the King Charles. Hopefully you found this video insightful. I post everything I'm betting with the staking, so how much to have on each horse based off your bankroll, in the investor.bet racing members area, which you can access through the link in the description. Made about 250 units so far this year, and if you want to follow all the selections, not just for Caulfield, for Randwick, but everything I'm betting in Brisbane, Adelaide, and Perth, you can access that through the link in the description. Plus, you also receive even more in-depth videos than this, going through why I'm specifically backing each horse. So you're not only getting the bets that'll make you money in the long term, but you're also learning and understanding the reason why you're making each bet. So it stops that process of randomly following along selections, which if you do that in horse racing, you're going to lose money long term. You need to be able to take value and take the right prices, which we consistently beat the market at over 70% of the time. And also then make sure you're betting in the right races that give you the best chance of winning. Combine that with your staking. So with horse racing, it's one of like the easiest things to kind of start chasing for two reasons. Is number one, there's so many races, and number two is you've got such a wide range in the odds. So if you're needing to win, I see it all the time with people. They start either betting at bigger amounts or a combination of both, betting at bigger odds, trying to win that money back. That'll never happen. We lock in all the bets the day before. So today for tomorrow is when all the bets are posted. You're able to place them all. So you've got your set of plays. Put those bets are on, and you'll get the result out of those selections for the entire race day. It's not putting last minute bets on. It's not rushing around following shorteners, which is a really bad horse racing strategy altogether. What that also means is that you're able to have your race days to do whatever you want to do because you've already locked your bets on the day before or the night before. It's not that you're glued to your phone or the computer all afternoon plugging bets in at the last second, which is very time consuming. To follow the selections, at most, if you're really slow at putting bets on, it takes about an hour a week for Wednesday and Saturday and the Friday night meetings. If you're quick, you can probably do it in about 15 to 20 minutes. So it makes it very time efficient, and also the amount that you can make compared to the time it takes. It's a really good little side income that you can have. So definitely check it out. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Good luck with your bets tomorrow, and hope to see you in the racing show.